Hello, everyone. Welcome to the panel Festivals of the Present, Festivals of the Future. It's already a third day of Torino Short Film Market, this year going fully online. My name is Emilia Mazik, and I'm a Festival of Shortwaves festival from Poland, and also a member of editorial team of Talking Shorts, which is a co-organizer of today's session. Before I will introduce our lovely guests of today, let me very briefly say a few words about Talking Shorts. So Talking Shorts is an online magazine dedicated to short films. Our goal is to make short films more visible and to create a wider discourse about the art form. Be Short Now is a series of industry events, meetings, panels, talks, and keynotes, focusing on short films and their festival ecosystem. And the recording of this today's sessions will be later available at talkingshorts.com/beshortnow. Okay, so that's all when it comes to the introductions. Let me now very warmly welcome our guests of today. I'm very happy that we are all now, because Lars has just joined us perfectly on time. So today I will have a pleasure to moderate a talk with three guests from three different festivals. We will have with us Errol Bilani, head of DocuLab DocuFest from Kosovo, Lars Henrik Gass, a festival director of Internationale Kurzfilmtage Oberhausen from Germany, and Nina Rodriguez Lima, director of programming from Guanajuato International Film Festival from Mexico. Hello, everyone. Yes. Let's start with a very, very open question about your experiences of 2020, which was definitely a very disruptive year for the festival landscape. So please tell us, share with us, what have you learned from it? And also on the top of that, what was your favorite or most inspiring online or hybrid event of 2020? You can start whoever you want, and please, audience, you can also write us questions during the talk in the chat box, or you can address them also at the end of the session.
Okay, Amelia, maybe because my mic is unmuted, so maybe I start first. Hi, everyone. It's a really pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me to share our experiences that we had of this very, very challenging year for all of us who are in a film festival circuit. Our festival was in August, and we were kind of hoping that, until the last moment, we would be able to at least do a hybrid festival. But because of the measures imposed by the government and because of the numbers of the people getting infected, and most of the cinemas were closed and most of the events were canceled. As you know, to all of you who have been to our festival, we have a very diverse program, outdoor screenings. We have a lot of music events, which we canceled, of course, and we had to shift literally to shift 72. We did a partnership with the Festival Scope and moved very quickly our platform online. When it comes to, running a film festival in Kosovo and in Balkans in particular, it's a very, very difficult to kind of reach your audiences in a way because they are very unfamiliar with online. They are very hesitant for online payments. So basically, not a lot of people like to share their credit card information to buy the tickets. And also being in Kosovo, there is no PayPal that works. So that was kind of an added burden to organizing an online festival. And then we found out something which was really, really kind of a top cherry on the top of the cake. Kosovo, we realized that Kosovo as a state doesn't have IP addresses. So there was no range of IP addresses. And, and that was a problem, kind of like the first edition of the festival, you know, when we started organizing a film festival in a city without a cinema. This was like organizing an online festival in a country without IP addresses. So this kind of created problems with a lot of distributors, with a lot of sales agents, because we had to open the IP addresses for Serbia, for Albania, for North Macedonia, and because, you know, the IP ranges were coming from these three countries. However, the festival went really, really well, and what I can really take from this edition of the festival, from this online edition of the festival, is that we managed to do our music performances. We did them online, and we partnered with a lot of performers, musicians who pre-recorded their sessions and sent it to us, and we had almost every night music performances. And maybe the best part for us, you know, that organized the festival, was that this year we had most of the time to hang out with our staff, which is not the case, you know, during regular festival editions, because we pay a lot of attention to our guests, to the program, to the venues. But this online version gave us a lot of time to socialize with our staff, to understand what they like about their work, what they don't like about their work. We kind of identified several staff members who had a really, really nice technological knowledge, so which helped a lot in, you know, shifting everything to an online platform. The bottom line was that, you know, hopefully this was the first and the last edition that we are doing online. But what we have learned is that, you know, this will remain with us. I mean, we will definitely continue using online options, because there are also several opportunities which I believe we will be talking in the future.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Errol. Very, very interesting stories. Would you like to very briefly add also or name any other online event that you attended and appreciated this year, or your DocuFest, DocuLab experience was the one that you wanted to share with us?
No, I was a jury in DocMunich, which was also quite a nice experience. They had built their own platform. I also had an opportunity to check out Doc Leipzig's platform, the market, and I mean, it's more or less the same, because now each and every festival has either their own platform or they have partnered with you know, the different platforms that provide the services. Me personally, for me, sharing the experience with people in the cinema, it's not the same like watching it online. I mean, it's definitely not. And
Okay.
this was something that me personally hated about this online version, because, you know, everything else what we do it in front of these small screens. But cinema is something where you know, in the festivals in particular, is where you meet with people, you talk films after the screenings, you talk about collaborations, you talk about you know, you learn new things, you create new partnerships, you create new friendships, which was something that, you know, the moment that Zoom link was off, you were off.
Okay. Thank you, Errol. It's a very, very strong opinion on the digital environment. Let's check with the others. Nina, how about you?
Yes, hi everybody. Thank you, and a very nice group to chat with. So to tell a bit about our experience, and which directly relates to what Errol just said. In the end, we were able to do a hybrid edition. Our festival, I think, in a normal year is comparable to DocuFest. It's a very public event. We're in 2 historic cities. We have a lot of outdoor screenings as well, and a lot of, like, you know, the historical theaters, and it's an audience event, and the whole experience of connecting people, like audiences and filmmakers, but also filmmakers among each other, is like the core heart of what we do. So so when this whole thing started, it's like, oh my God, we're losing like the of course we can show films online, but it will never like it was the I mean, it was a chance, an opportunity to know what's, or to refocus on what's really important for you, and to rethink how we can do that, no? But yeah, we were very scared, or we were very, it was a challenge to recreate what's important for us. And so normally the festival is end July, and in March we decided that we'll postpone the festival to end September, of course hoping that that everything would be over by then, but also like realizing that, so this gave us a bit more time. And yeah, what we learned as well from this time, I think, is that that we're all very flexible. I was very motivated by, to name a different event, by what Vision du Ruel did. We were like one of the first events to affected by the thing, and who like within a week or two, and also CPH dogs, had to like shift online. And but how that happened, and the way that that happened, and everything, I thought was very inspiring and motivating. And so we kind of copied a lot of stuff from there. And like I felt like as an audience member, but also like I was like, several friends had films there and stuff. And then I saw that I don't know, 500 people were watching the intro to one of the films. And so I thought, yeah, I mean, of course there is more audiences out there, and there's of course watching films online is nothing new. And so most of our audiences also watch films online. So yeah, so right away when we decided to postpone the dates to September, but we also knew that nobody, or few people, will be able to travel, whatever happens. And I think that's might be the case for next year as well. So we already decided, okay, let's do this, let's try this online stuff. And but it was very important, like Errol just said, for us as well. It's I mean, the cinema as an experience, as like a community, and you know, sitting in a dark room, that was very important for us. So we didn't know until like weeks before whether we were able, but the cinemas were opening like week by week in Mexico, by the state, and here it remained closed quite long, but then it was open, so they were at 30%. And even, I mean, some of our screenings in the cinemas, and like the chain cinemas, were full, and others there were not so many people. And like in general, like the experience, there was Tenet in the cinemas, and they said, like the people from the cinemas said that like maximum audience there is like 15 people or something for a blockbuster. I don't know, but it, like, even if there's one person and we have the chance to put I mean, if the cinema is open and we can put a film on the screen, of course we will do that. And it meant a lot for the filmmakers, and like from the feedback that we got from people, even that didn't go, even that didn't like weren't able to watch anything online, we got a lot of feedback from people. So yes, we also did drive-in theaters, and we have a very, like, we're in those like super nice cities, and so we found a very nice sort of lake where we had a little boat cinema. So so we tried to do everything, like we tried to be creative, and as an event in Mexico, or like as like we never have been an event with like a big budget, and there was like the year before also there was a change in the government and we had to adapt. So kind of like from our history, we've always been flexible. We've also tried to always like do new stuff, like we have like this VR section and whatever. So we so I think we were kind of prepared in that way. And we did with the VR section, or with that, my colleagues there, we did also like this virtual campus where you could create your avatar and hang out. Personally, for me, it's not my thing, but it worked. And it, like, we did some industry meetings there, and you, like, I mean, I needed somebody else to show me, but like they were all there. And I mean, it was like, so we tried like on all levels what we can do. And of course, this type of conversations we're having right now are also great, and are also you know, can be attended by many more people than in real life, and will be there forever, and like people can rewatch it. And I'm sure we did one one similar conversation that Enrico participated in, that I'm sure we're going to be showing to in our labs for the next year. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
So flexibility and possibility to test new things and adapt. And how about Oberhausen, a festival with a very rich history, which this year for the first time went fully online? Lars, would you like to share your experience? But let's try to move fast, because this is just the first part of our talk and there are many to come.
Okay, I try to be brief. So we tried from the beginning on to not to replicate the festival. We were very much interested to create a kind of an internet urgency experience, because we all already felt a kind of fatigue with streaming platforms where you just spend more time in searching for films than watching them actually. So we created, and that was maybe the major decision, a kind of a festival blog. I mean, a blog technically seen is not very innovative actually, but in the combination with online competition, it was basically new, and it created that kind of internet urgency so that people were sort of hooked by the fact, that there is something going on. So we held, like you here in Torino, discussions and conversations and presentations and things like that. So the major question was, how can we avoid to replicate just a physical festival, and how can we question, our own conventions? How to hold a festival, because we all know, the term festival usually means there's a limitation of space and time. And what triggers me and fascinating me a lot is the idea of expanding that term and the idea of festival in general. So we possibly will talk about this a bit later. Thank you.
Thank you, Lars. I just wanted to ask you also if you also would like to mention maybe some other inspiring film events that you attended this year, if there were any that really also opened your eyes to this new festival possible structure for next year's.
I'm sure there were many, and there are still many. As I said, I'm not very much into watching films online. So I'm more into presenting films to other people. So I found the Munich experience very convincing. And so Munich and Oberhausen in Germany, at least, are taken to be the most outstanding examples for the first decade of online festivals in Germany. And that went quite well. And we had the luck, that people were just keen, how this was working. And and so we had both of us, Munich and us, we had a substantial income on that. Surprisingly enough. And I mean, we in Oberhausen, we donated all the money, the box office online, which caused some problems, to be honest, with my board, because they said, well, if you guys can spend 23,000 euros for social concerns, so you don't need additional money. So that were, kind of problems.
Okay, thanks. Oh, I see that the German festivals were highly popular. It's also a very nice gesture that you decided to share your box office with those in need. So this has been our experience, and let's say the festivals of the present. Let's now move to maybe more exciting part, which is the festivals of the future. I know that we are no futurologists, so we cannot predict what's going to happen next year, but definitely we have to create some kind of online or offline strategy for 2021 and maybe even further. So I wanted to move already to your plans for next edition. And I specifically wanted to ask you not only about your general plans, because I know that those still can change and evolve, but maybe to your attitude toward content, because I think this is something also that changed much in last years. So because I know that each of you have a different role in your organizations. Errol is much more into industry. Nina is a programming director. How do you work with the content these days? Do you plan or do you expect some different approach from your curators, or do you have some special strategy which is designed for the solutions you want to implement? Nina mentioned car cinema or aqua cinema at the swimming pool. I read on your website. So if this framework of the new festival world we face is influencing your content. And maybe let's start with Nina, since I mentioned you as the first one.
Yes, no, it's actually, when I read your questions before, I didn't think about that. Yes, definitely. I mean, the aqua cinema, it's boats, it's not people swimming, but and it was very, like, I mean, I was very scared about it before, but like it functioned very well and it looks very well and it's very scenic. And that said, and I don't think, like, when you were asking the question before, I was going to reply, no, of course, we're not going to change the strategy about like what we're going to program. I also think, like always, I mean, the films that we receive in a way dictate what we'll program. And in a way, what if I see any tendency, I mean, over the past years and maybe accelerated by the pandemic, is that we see more personal stories, or intimate stuff, and but of course reflecting on what's happening in the world and how we feel about it. But yeah, I don't have like a specific thing. Of course, that said, like one of the first challenges was that in a drive-in theater, the audience is going to be different, and yes, I mean, they're expecting blockbusters, and they're expecting and even like on this outdoor screen in the water, we probably couldn't program anything with like sex on the screen or with too much violence. I don't know. But so I was scared at this at one point, but we basically tried to not change the idea, the vision, or that we have in our, especially not in our competition. We didn't change anything. We had some special screenings, as we always do, and to attract maybe also some different audiences. But in the end, like, and then we selected the films from our program, from that selection, that could fit there or could fit there. And so in the end, I mean, we screened a very similar program than in previous years. And yeah, so some of the films, we have outdoor screenings always, so some of the films are suitable for that, and other films are maybe not so suitable for that. But we screened everything on a film, on a cinema screen. And I don't know, like 90% online as well. So, yeah, so I'm gonna be more brief this time.
But just a quick second question. But I'm asking about next year.
Yes. So I'm gonna be brief, because I think, like, in a way I already responded to that. On one hand, like, we just wrapped, we're basically still we are also, because then we continued after the festival finished, we still had, like, because we had asked for permission to have 1,000 views of all the films, and there was still a demand, so people didn't. So this is maybe something we learned this year, that it's too many films to be online. We had like 150 films almost online, like a lot of short films, of course. That was maybe too much, so I don't know, we might reduce that, but other than that, we have showcases right now running in different cities in Mexico as well, which also where at least makes the presential screenings possible. So we might continue all that. I think we'll definitely continue the online component. Another thing that we learned this year was these conversations, but also we felt closer to the filmmakers, because normally we have maybe, I don't know, of the European filmmakers, maybe 20 can come to Mexico. And the other ones you're not so much in touch with. And this year we did this conversation with like almost everybody, and it felt like much closer, and there was much more like we didn't know anything, so we wanted to know what's the worries of the filmmakers, what's the worries of the audiences. So I felt like the community sense was much closer. So for next year, like as I said, this year, like already, like we're trying to be flexible always. I don't think we would change our curatorial vision, let's say, or the program. Like we're still focused on the same core things. But again, like I think we'll have to do the cinema in the water again, because the people loved it. And I don't know if, I guess drive-in cinemas also, it was not a new idea. We had been planning it before. We never did it before, and it works very well. But hopefully we will be able to go back to others of the theaters as well. But yeah, we'll remain flexible, and we try to come up with something new regardless.
Okay, so some of the new solutions you found out this year will definitely stay. That's interesting. Lars, what about you? What about Oberhausen? I've seen that you launched in the special online competitions.
Yeah, very true. Because we are planning a long-term permanent hybrid strategy. So we do not want to go back, to the status before. I think Corona sort of helped us to develop, our own skills very much, in technology, but also, skills in the team, etc. And as I said in the first round, I find it fascinating to gain a new audience while losing an old audience, and or to keep both audience at the same time. So, and I mean, what we're gonna do is a hybrid version, obviously. But I can't really describe you how we're going to do this, because I can't watch in the glass ball either what will happen next year in May. However, I think we should ourselves free from the expectation, that there is a need to return to a conventional physical edition, or a version of a festival. And because what now is possible are new forms of collaborative festivals. So there is no need to held a festival in May in whatever in Oberhausen, and another festival in another month. And so we can join forces in order to bring films to a new audience all year long. And this is something I found very fascinating. There's an old kind of term for the festival in Oberhausen, which was way to the neighbor. Yeah, so the festival was very much new in the past for this term, way to the neighbor. And I think now we can do this to a totally different degree, because until now we only were able to attract people to come to Oberhausen. Now we can go to the people, and that's fascinating.
Thank you, Lars. Eero, I'm very curious, how would you face this, especially that what was the biggest discovery of 2020 was the potential inclusion of international industry without the need of traveling to so many places. So what's your plan or long-term strategy for 2021?
Well, when it comes to curatorial aspect, I don't think we are going to change a lot of things. We already reduced the numbers of films that we were screening. We had something around 200 films this year, rather than 250 films that we had in a previous year. I think that we are already planning from this year to do this, the hybrid version. The hybrid version, which will, as Lars mentioned, go to the audiences, not necessarily bring people to prison, because I'm absolutely sure that in August next year there will be a lot of hesitation. Even if the situation improves, there will be a lot of hesitation to travel, and we will be continuing to maintain our online presence when it comes to panel discussions, industry events, master classes. We are now focusing a lot in production. We already started a collaboration with the Winter Tour, where we are giving grants for short film production here in Kosovo. And we will be hopefully starting a new venture with a new partnership, Kosovo-UK partnership, in terms of creating opportunities for young talent. So we are going to use this option of bringing a lot of lecturers, so bringing the know-how, the expertise, to DocuFest without having a need to bring people over. But, as same as what Nina was saying, these outdoor screenings are the beauty of DocuFest. I mean, whoever was at DocuFest knows that, our festival is known for its communal environment, where we kind of, the city and the festival submerge one into the other. And we will definitely have our cinema on the riverbed. We will have our cinema in the castle. We have our traveling solar cinema. So basically one plan that we could not realize in 2020 will definitely move into 2021, which is going to be DocuFest on tour, where we are going to go to other cities with our solar cinema, with a program primarily for children and young people, basically developing new audiences, because if people cannot come to the festival, then we see it appropriate the festival goes to the people, and we are planning to do that. And one thing that we are considering seriously is to extend the period of festivals, so basically running it for 3 months, making films available for a longer period of time, creating, because Kosovo is a small country, and we will be trying to use every opportunity to create possibilities for filmmakers to create new contacts, to access the international market, to meet with industry professionals. So basically trying to support the film industry here in Kosovo, particularly when it comes to short films and to documentary films. I guess that's it. We will not change a lot. We will definitely maintain some of the elements from this year, but we will also try to bring again the elements that DocuFest is known for. When it comes to music performances, I'm sure that will continue in an online format until situation improves and until having large gatherings is possible. So that's going to have to wait for another couple of years. We'll see how the situation develops, and basically it will be a very, very interesting year. Hopefully we will be able to travel. We will be able to return some of that collective experiences that festivals are, because festivals are about these communities where we meet, where we don't necessarily end our contact with when the film ends. Or, for example, if we were in this panel in Torino, we would definitely continue the conversation, even with some other attendees. And that's the beauty of the festival. And this is what I don't like in an online format, is that the moment the time is over, we kind of are disconnected.
Yes, it's a pity, and please trust me, I hate to keep this putting this time pressure on you. Dear audience, there are at least 60 of you, so please feel free to add the questions in the Q&A box. I will address them in a couple of minutes. I have a maybe kind of general question to all of you. So please feel free to share your thoughts, because you mentioned many challenges. You mentioned different festival identity, finding different audience, so defining your new target, changing even the time frame of the festival, looking for the possible connection between artists and audiences as well, or even creating a completely new festival experience. But I wanted to ask you not only about the challenges, but also about some relevant topics that you think that may be the biggest issues or also challenges for the industry next year. It's a bit also a futurologistic question, of course. But yes, we are talking about the festivals of the present and the festivals of the future. So before we will move on to the questions from the Q&A, please let's put some more ideas on the table.
I think a major concern of us should be the decline of commercial cinema, because we all depend on cinema spaces, obviously. And so the crucial question is, are those places surviving in the future? So where will be festivals held in the future? And this is something we have to keep in mind while talking about our own future.
In our case, I mean, we don't usually always the spaces that we screen in is not so much the commercial cinema. So it's not as a festival space or venue, not so much. But yeah, in general for society, of course, I think it's very important that those spaces survive. And I know a lot of art house cinemas have closed down. I don't know. And we just said, on the other hand, like for this type of industry events, like I also work on another in a lab that we organized in March, and also was had to cancel a week before, and we found out right away this is it works very well for these meetings and the meetings that I've been doing in the last days for Torino. For this, it works very well, but I think we're concerned about the production conditions and what films or how filmmakers will be able to make films. No, so we can have a lot of industry meetings connecting people, but then how will they be able to work together? I don't know. The only thing that I hope is not happening is that now I heard from a lot of filmmakers that now we have to make films for Netflix, and now we have to make to cater for the market. So I just I think it's very important that we reinforce the people in making films with their own vision, and then they will find their own. Then they will find their audiences, no? Because also of the economic concerns of people, and I guess that's challenging, and also not to also it's challenging, I think, to be in your home and to not become totally egomaniac in your, yeah, I think and what we should be concerned about, or what we want to do is to find or to support filmmakers and making their work and finding their voices, and then we can take care of finding the audiences or finding the screens, and I'm not worried about that, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to say the same thing what Lars said, because we run a cinema. We have our own cinema, which we had to close. It hasn't worked since March. And what happened in Prizren with DocuFest's influence, we started organizing a festival in the city without a cinema. Today, we have 16 cinemas in the city, which is the largest city, that has the largest number of cinemas per capita in the region, and in top 20 in Europe. So basically, this is going to be the future concern, how we are going to maintain our own cinema. We do a lot of installation cinemas that we do in public spaces. But, we were already talking with some of these commercial cinemas to extend the festival into the suburbs of the city, because these cinemas, some of them are in the suburbs. So basically, our dream when we started the festival was almost there, and then came the pandemic, and it kind of halted everything. And this is something that's very, very troublesome. And on the other hand, it's also it's going to affect how we are seen in a community as a festival, because DocuFest's largest influence was because of the economic impact that was bringing to the city. And this year, that was really, really clear. It was really obvious. People were saying like, oh, the hell with the pandemic, bring some guests, you know, because that's what the spirit of the festival is. So yeah, that's going to be quite a big challenge for the future.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. We will go back to this list of issues for next year, but first I will address two questions from the Q&A box. The first question is from Sam from Flatpak from Birmingham. Could the panelists offer any insight on what they think the implications will be on the economics of the festivals? Do they think more money will be needed, less money? What kind of financial models are you looking at? So economical aspects, who would like to share?
Yeah, I can maybe start by saying that, you know, the online festival, it's much cheaper. At least in our case, it was like much cheaper, because most of our money, most of our funds would go to the logistics of the festival, because, you know, we were improvising, we were building cinemas, renting a lot of equipment. So basically, in a way, it was much cheaper. But on the other hand, when it comes to own festival budget, it's like, how do we fundraise? You know, in a country like Kosovo, where there is no particular funds that come either from state nor from private sector, it's very difficult, because the private sector is also hit, and we had only 2 or 3 private sponsors this year, which was really a big indicator that things are not going well. So basically what we are trying to do, we are trying to stretch the work that we do throughout the year. So basically our education program with the films in schools, with our traveling cinema, and with our film school that we are doing for young people, is kind of becoming also the bedrock of our, you know, finances for the festival. So it's going to be interesting how it develops. I mean, definitely, if we maintain only the online version, then it's definitely, in our case at least, it's less money is needed. But if we do a hybrid version of the festival, that's going to change the situation.
Yes, anyone else would like to quickly address the financial models?
I'm not. That's one thing in the one aspect of the festival that I don't try to keep out of a bit. But yeah, as Errol said, I mean, we're in a tourist town, and yes, a lot of the not only the actual money that we need to support the festival, but also the view of, like, you know, how we are supporting the town and how we are working with the tourism. I mean, a lot of we're depending a lot of public funding. We're thankfully not depending so much on ticket sales. Like we it's always been free, and we try to maintain this in the, I mean, we maintained this for the online version. There was no other way, which also saves us a lot of you know, like, questions, I guess. But yeah, I guess that I mean, having done a hybrid version was not cheaper than, of course, we spend less on hotels, on travel and everything, but we used for the drive-in and for the lake, in order to be able to project all day, we used LED screens, which are like super expensive. And yeah, we had like other, like, even, I mean, the platform, we also did it with Shift, and yeah, that also has a cost, like, to do it all. So in terms of technology, and I think, like, our budget was almost the same like last year, and it was harder to get the funding. Lars wanted to say that.
Yeah, Emilia, if with your permission, There's another issue we should focus, which is climate change. And because we can't go on like this forever, I mean, inviting people from all over the place, you know, and so we have to come up with new strategies anyway. So the digital is only one strand, but there are other needs to and other questions to be answered.
I totally agree. However, let's remember that this environmental aspect mostly is about the international industry traveling. When we talk about our regular local audiences walking to the cinema, then it's definitely more eco-friendly to just attend a cinema in screening rather than to stream it online at home. But I fully agree that it's a very important topic. I have quite some questions. So let's begin with a question/comment from Amos Geva. In a way, many festivals will become a label more than an event. What do you think the implications of this are regarding premiere status requests, and also perhaps this will bring more for daring programming, as some festivals take films they see in bigger ones as they a label, there will be more demand for unique tastes and styles in a program. Thoughts on this? So, question of Lars, would you like to address?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because I published an article I think 10 years ago, and the title was From Trade Market to Trademark, and it was about the shift from of a festival from an event to a platform. And because and that's a new self-understanding of what we are doing. But I agree that not every festival can go, you know, on this track. So there are many festivals, important festivals, and having way more box office than Oberhausen, by the way, who possibly will have a different strategy and focusing more on a local audience, you know, as you mentioned, Emilia. But there are quite a few festivals. Take just Sundance, because they just recently announced that they have an online strategy which is considered to be very aggressive, you know. But they, or those festivals, they have the potential to be a trademark.
I don't consider us so much as a trademark, and like, as I said, we're very much an audience festival. So I had the thought this year, like, with taking stuff online, that maybe we could have more liberty to program like more experimental stuff, or more experimental as a weird word, but yeah, no, I think it's we have to focus on the audience as well with that. And I forgot what I was going to say, so I'm going to turn.
Don't worry. Errol, would you like to also comment on this strategy, or should we move to next questions?
Well, since we have two programmers that already answered to this better than I can, let's move on to the next.
Okay, so now we have two. We still have time. So if anyone else would also like to ask something, please do. There's a question from Nadine Asmar, who wants to ask two things. The first thing is actually also again about finances, but maybe slightly from a different perspective. So the question is if the online edition was more beneficial financially as well. In terms of reach, it has definitely reached a wider audience, but in terms of a budget, was it able to lower the financial loss of your festivals?
Yeah, maybe I mentioned that in the beginning. The problems, the challenges that we faced were basically connected to, you know, credit cards, hesitation to use credit cards, and lack of PayPal here in Kosovo. So unfortunately, when it comes to financially, we didn't have higher numbers. It was not that beneficial. But in terms of audiences, the audience was bigger because most of the people were attending the screenings that were free of charge. And we had several programs that were opened globally, so our own production, our own films. Then we had a program that we did of our national competition for diaspora. So basically we had this open in Switzerland, and Kosovo has a big diaspora in Switzerland and Germany. So basically we had a lot of local films watched. And this kind of saved us because when it came to audiences in Kosovo, we had a really, really low numbers. And most of our audiences attended the screenings that were free of charge. So when it comes to, financial gain, it was not as good as, it didn't even cover the costs of the platform.
Yeah, I see. Lars mentioned the numbers of Oberhausen, but if you would compare it to the typical edition on site, was it a different outcome for box office?
More or less, yes. You can't compare it because we actually sold almost 3,000 festival passes, and the usual count is by ticket, so that's a different thing. And so I can't say so this was way more successful than the other version or so. But that was my concern anyway.
Okay, now let's move to the second question of Nadine Asmar, which is this time about the audience preferences. It's a bit long, so I will try to short it. Basically the question is if because of the availability of much new released indie films online for free, do you think that the independent productions will have from now on a wider audience, since they caught people's attention quite remarkably, or it could be just a short period of time limited to the pandemic restrictions and things will go back to their initial state next year? How do you think? Will the taste of the audience change because of the availability of festivals? To re-ask the same question.
Yeah, I think this will stay. At least in our case, because what happened during the pandemic when the lockdown started, and the things that we did together, with My Darling Quarantine, we did our Sweet and Short Quarantine, our own production, and we started, providing a bit more of experimental, a bit more of different type of films from blockbusters. And we noticed that the local audiences also, during the festival, this little number of audience, they ended up, going more for experimental films. So this was something that's encouraging, and I believe that this is here to stay. And this kind of gave us a bit of how do I say, it made it easier for us to also try and program a bit more experimental films for our educational program as well. So basically building the new audiences who are more demanding audience.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also totally optimistic that we're learning something from this, audiences are more curious, also maybe because they're watching more stuff online, or audiences in Mexico, for example, are very cinephile and are very curious and are very much online, spend a lot of time online. So I think that now they have found more, there were a lot of also these lists being shared of films where you can watch online, and everybody recommending films to their fellows. So I do think that there are new ways of distributing or of curating programs that can be found, and that are definitely that there are new or more successful ways to connect interested audiences with more independent programming.
Yes, I also agree with you. I think it's a great time for us to finally catch up on the big streaming platforms, which had kind of monopoly on people's taste and somehow trained people how to watch stuff online. It's time for us, the festivals, to step in with interesting offer and to continue this topic. I would like to address one more question from Sven Schwartz, also about content. What would you say are good strategies for festivals to be able to keep their uniqueness whilst moving and presenting themselves online? In my opinion, the challenge is that the online festivals become this blurry thing where you can't really make out the differences between the festivals anymore, especially since the competition programming tends to have many films that are screened at the large number or other festivals as well. Very interesting questions. So what would you do to keep your festival unique?
To be honest, I don't understand Sven's question to that extent, because I mean the uniqueness doesn't depend on actually online or physical world. It's I mean now the challenge is to find new ways of interactivity, of participation, in what we are doing online. The Austrian philosopher, curator Peter Weipel recently said the challenge is not to come up with a better television, the challenge is to come up with a better Netflix. And this is what we have to do as festivals. And so I don't see why we shouldn't be unique in what we are doing. I think, for example, I mean, the approach of Oberhausen in May was quite different from the Munich approach, and not only because of the films, but also in how we addressed an audience, etc. And so now we are improving things and we are learning little by little. So I agree, but it's not, I don't see the threat that we all will be sort of leveled in what we are doing or streamlined.
I do understand the question that that Sven has, or it was a topic at some point, like, or the first response was like from the Mexican festivals, like usually we do share some films with other festivals. So then the festivals were like, okay, but we need to have the online premiere. And I think like it's, or as Lars said, like we shouldn't be worried about that. And I think like, because there is normally like a lot of the Mexican documentaries, for example, they show at all the festivals and there shouldn't be a problem with that. Because that's the only way they get seen. Like that's the only chance they ever get projected during the year. And I don't see a problem with like sharing the same film with like, I mean, I guess Sven's question is because now we're competing for the same audience, or like not competing, but we have the same audience and we sometimes offer the same content. But in our experience and in our initial sense, it was like that. I mean, still we have very different audiences, and we're reaching different audiences, and even the way, like, I mean, if we put one film in a completely different, we're showing it in a different context. So. So I don't think there is that is as much a challenge, or yeah, I'm not worried about our uniqueness. I'm like worried about how to bring that uniqueness like in the current situation, but yeah, it's more like a technical or like a interhuman problem of how to recreate like a community online.
I have a very, very quick last question before we're going to end this session, because the time is unfortunately running out. From Leah Furksi, have you planned or are you planning new strategies to involve the audiences for an online or hybrid edition of the Festival of the Future? So this is somehow also what you, Nina, said, that you are still thinking about that, but maybe you already, all of you, maybe you thought about some very particular new solutions to reach your audience or involve it more actively than in 2020.
Honestly, we are. This is something which is the biggest challenge for us as well, and we already started the two-way communication with our audiences that participate online. We have a very specific audience when it comes to physical events that we have. But when it comes to an online, it's really, really very challenging. So basically, organizing a bit more of public talks that are bringing the concerns of the social issues here in Kosovo, like if we talk about how climate change is addressed here in Kosovo, how do we use film to discuss the topics on dealing with the past, for example, is something that can be engaging the audiences. We tried it this year, especially with the Dealing with the Past program, where we encouraged people to watch a film before joining the panel discussion, encouraged the audiences to watch the film before joining the discussion. And it kind of worked. But how to intensify this a bit more, I think it's going to be another way of doing the trial and error, like doing it and then see how it works.
Yeah, thank you. Some other people. It's almost a final notes around, so you better take your time.
No, just the same. I mean, it's been the major challenge, like because for the filmmakers, it's very important, of course, or that is what we're losing, or that is what we found out we're losing. And we tried everything to encourage. We have a lot of like community participation with like people, I don't know, like putting stupid comments on our website always, like or on Facebook or anything. But the real discussion with the films, when we did, I mean, of course, we did the Q&A sessions with filmmakers, and we realized that it wasn't so important to have them live, which helped us from an organizational point of view, because the people would not, like, the questions or the comments were, hello, thank you, not directly so much about the films. And I mean, if they're on Facebook, like even they can comment on it like after they watch the film. So we had the side of the film where we had the introduction, and then you can watch the film, and then the Q&A, which we recorded the week before. We had like journalists do the Q&A, so that in a way, for the kids program, we had like a group of kids watch the film and then like at least talk to the filmmakers. And I don't know, we had like different people doing the Q&As, but from trying to recreate an audience point of view, but yeah, I think that is the biggest challenge. And we asked the people to send emails with their comments, with their questions and stuff, and it was not so many people did that. So yeah, that's one of the major things we're still wondering about.
Lars, yes.
Yeah,
Final note.
Very brief. I mean, we are learning now, and this is the best example that there are new formats of interaction. But I mean, we don't have to be afraid of the digital. Actually, I mean, why do we want to replicate physical socializing on the internet? I don't see a point in that. I mean, if we go hybrid, we can do both. So so we don't have to be afraid of that, not at all.
Oh yes, I totally agree with you, Lars. I think that the online parties were the worst part of the festival circuit 2020. We have one more waiting question, but I'm afraid we have to close the session. Maybe Enrico will forgive me if I will quickly answer it, because it's quite interesting. Oh yes, he said I can go with it. From Stefan Dobler, how do you deal with the fact that a film has a following of 30%, meaning 70 click away, over 90 don't read the credits? Lars once wrote about der Zwang der Schaunis, I'm sorry for my German, in cinema, which is very relevant when it comes to shorts programming. So how do you think, why people click away? Why do they not stay with films until the end? How do we prevent this thing?
Well, be more Stalinistic. Shoot them, torture them. I don't know. I mean, what's the point? I mean, it's we all do this while viewing work, you know, on DVD or you know, even on television. I mean, we zapping every night. And again, so we're doing both. I mean, we're doing this online in the way Stefan is complaining about, and I find it annoying too. But on the other hand, we still have the cinema, and we can do it better in the cinema and focusing people on a specific programming, which is still important, of course.
I can add from myself that maybe we just need to learn to program films differently. Not in programs, maybe different forms of presentations are possible. This opens so many new options for brand new generations of content consumers, content creators, TikTokers, Instagram followers, and all these kids out there ready to experience our festivals in a brand new way. Of course, we cannot forget about the cinema. But I think that this is the great conclusion of this talk, that we somehow have to adjust. We have to find new solutions and be flexible, because the future may bring more lockdowns. It's very uncertain, and definitely as a sector, we need to be open to face and ready to face those changes. Thank you very much for this super interesting talk and sharing honestly all your expectations toward next year and experiences of 2020. Thank you, audience, for a lot of interesting questions. I'm very positively surprised. After so many months of online talks, we still have active audience. That's something amazing. Just a very, very quick final note. Since I'm representing Talking Shorts, please remember that this online magazine can be supported by you or your festival. Go to talkingshorts.com and read more about becoming a supporting member, because we are a very niche initiative, which is focused on also a niche ecosystem. So any support is much welcome. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of Torino Short Film Market, and see you in the future.